Hello student, in this video I am going to discuss about the need of prototyping in an information system development and analysis. So these are the main agenda to discuss, like what is prototyping, what is the importance and need of prototyping, and what are different type of prototypes are there, what are the advantages and disadvantages of those prototyping models, and what is the methodology, what are disadvantages of in general prototyping, and these are things we are going to discuss in this video. So actually prototype is the process of quickly putting together a working model. Suppose you want to develop a information system, but before going to develop the whole system, you might want to develop a simple but working model of the whole system. It's a process of quickly putting together a working model in order to test various aspects of the design, illustrates ideas for or features, and gather early user feedback. Uh, so here, the main agenda of prototyping is to gather the ideas or features and gather early user feedback, and also to know how your design, how your features work out or will work out when you devise the or when you design the larger information system. So through the prototype, you can know these things. So prototyping as a type of development in which emphasis is placed on developing prototypes early in the development process to permit early feedback and analysis in support of the development process. So that is why the needs of prototyping are like this. It enables us to explore the problem space within the stakeholders uh, as a requirement and artifacts to initially envision the system. Point is that before you design the whole system, you need to visualize the system and you need to place it in prototype, and you need to relate, or you need to map up everything that you are designing. The prototype should map up with the bigger information system. So suppose you want to design a search engine. Before going to deploy the whole search engine in the internet, you might want to develop some main algorithm or main part of the main system, so that it works or not. If it works, you can then go for the big one as a design artifact that enables us to explore the solution space of our system. So through the prototype, we can expect or we can explore the solution we can get from the bigger system. A vehicle for you to communicate the possible UI design of your system. So suppose prototype is it's like a vehicle for you to communicate the possible UI design of your main system. So through that prototype, you will know what type of user interface you might actually need during the building of the actual system, a potential foundation from which to continue developing system. And from the prototype, if it's successful enough, you can build the, and this will become a main foundation of your whole system. So that is why prototyping is very much needed in very much scenarios, because if it is more it gives you cost effective scenario also before deploying the main one. So you can see disadvantages and advantages here. Users can try the system and provide constructive feedback during the development, but also each iteration builds on the previous iterations and further refines the solution. This makes it difficult to reject the initial solution as inappropriate and start over. If you build the system again and again, or build the prototype system again and again, further defines the solution will be refined up, but how can you say that it may make it difficult to reject the initial solution as inappropriate? You might not it might not give you enough evidence to discard or reject the initial solution and start from the start and choose the next solution. But that is the problem of iterative way of developing this prototype model. And operational prototype can be produced in weeks. Here you can see advantage is that an operational prototype can be produced in weeks. Before point is that suppose you want to develop a bigger information system, you developed it and suppose it get wasted, then it will be very lost for in a business purpose, in a business way, in money way or time way. It will be very cost effective, very loss case. So that is why in a week or in a 2 week or in a 3 week you can build an operational prototype model, and through which you can learn all the feedbacks and all the other aspects of the system, and then you can go for the big one. So in that way your loss will be minimal. But in disadvantage also is like that formal end of phase reviews do not occur. Thus it is very difficult to contain the scope of the prototype. Users become more positive about implementing the system as they see solution emerging that will meet their needs. So point is that users become more positive. If you see the prototype model and user using it, and user become more positive and about implementing the system as they see a solution emerging that will meet their needs. If the user sees that, if the user sense that the prototyping giving the solution or it is emerging as a solution to their needs, then they will accept the bigger system or they will accept the main system. Okay, if it accepts the prototype model, then it will obviously accept the main system. But system development is often absent or incomplete. System documentation is often absent or incomplete in case of prototyping model, since the primary focus is on development of the prototype. Because if we don't usually give that much amount of time in this building the prototype, so no system documentations mainly there in or often it's absent or incomplete. So that might be a disadvantage in many cases. Prototyping enables any detection of errors, early detection of errors. System backup and recovery performance and security issues can be overlooked. So this is also major issue, like we cannot like back up the things, we cannot recover the things, we might not be able to find the performance and security issues which might be overlooked during the prototype model. Now we'll go through the journey of prototyping process, how we can create a prototype model. Obviously we might have goals before building the main system, so we might need to find out what are the functionality we need to create before a prototype model. Then we develop that model, then we try to evaluate the model. So there are four types of prototyping process. There might be many of them which might be added in this list. You might find in different literatures, but as a brief concept, or to give you just a highlight of the prototyping concept, I'm listing these four types. You can go for others also if you find them, try to analyze them. If you have any question or any query or any ideas to share, you can share me. Okay, so now with this slide, so throwaway prototype is developed from the initial requirements but is not used for the final project. It's like we are going to anyway throw away this model, but just to find out the requirements, to find out the initial requirements. It is obviously not going to be used for the final project. And written specification of the requirements. Some developers believe that this type is a waste of time because you don't use it. Obviously, this type of prototype is it is not used in the final project. Regardless of if prototype is discarded or kept for production, you must use a easy to use language. So whatever the prototype is, it might be it is discarded or kept for production or not, you must use a easy to use language in this kind of prototype. So obviously it has these advantages. It has advantages also: significantly reduced project risk, has a short project timeline. So this has a short project timeline, but disadvantages like the prototype actually does nothing, it's just presentational. So it's this just to present the things, okay, and only for a limited purpose. Starting become a thing of the past, not getting used as much now, because this type of thing has not been done in nowadays. Okay. Next is evolutionary prototype. Evolutionary prototyping is considered most fundamental form of prototyping. Evolutionary prototyping main concept is to build a robust prototype and constantly improve it. That is the main point here. You can improve it constantly. Okay, that is the idea of evolutionary. It is iteratively you will evolve this prototype. According to Steve McMahon, evolutionary delivery is a life cycle model that straddles the ground between evolutionary prototyping and stage delivery. Actually, we are going to discuss this evolutionary life cycle model in different part of this course. But this is also this prototyping model also follow that kind of procedure. You can see here basically it follows like this way: evolution delivery. First, it tried to build a software concept, then it tried to analyze the preliminary requirements. It will give the feedback to software concept also. In that way, it will try to again incorporate. Again, this will go to this design of architecture and system core, and again it can give provide some feedback, and again it can provide some feedback, and again it can give provide the inputs here. Like that way, develop a version. In that, this is the delivering final version point, but it will lead to another point is the delivered version, developing a version, then delivered a version, then it goes to elicit customer feedback. It try to find out the customer feedback and then incorporate customer feedback in the version, and in that way it will try to go for final version. So this is an evolutionary delivery method, but we are obviously going to discuss this thing again in the evolutionary model of information system design. Okay, life cycle of software development. But here also in prototyping case also we use this process, evolutionary prototyping phases, like define the basic requirements, create a working prototype, then verification of the working prototype, evaluate and deliver the requirements, and again we try to feedback all these things, define the basic requirements, and again we try to go through this. So iteratively this will work until unless we found a desired product, desired prototyping product. So advantages are like you are always looking for new ways to improve the system. So here always you try to improve the system in iterative way. This model increases the chance of having the client satisfied with the working system. So through this evolutionary prototyping model increases the chance of having the client satisfied because you are iteratively improving the system. With the so the working system will give more satisfaction for the client. The model can be used even when the requirements are not defined. So initially the requirements might not define in well enough. So if you go through the iterations, so your requirements might be more clear, might be more focused one. So in that way you try to know more by getting the feedbacks of the users and all. So in that way you can that might be more clearer to know what requirements are required in this model or not. So and quicker delivery of the system. So in this way if you can build up the system, you can provide the prototype model. You after prototyping you know the whole what things still need to be done, then the delivery of the main system is very quick because you have got the main idea through prototyping and in it is iterative way, and in that way you know that what type of requirements is needed for the user or not, and what type of requirements is needed or not, what type of advantages are there, whatever disadvantages are there, like everything you have to analyze this in iterative way, and so the delivering the main system is very quick. But there is also disadvantages, like this method can be used to avoid documenting the requirements of the system. So initially we might not use to document the requirements. Management is required. So here this part is required, management is required, and long-term maintenance can be expensive because in this model this evolutionary concept might live for long time, and long-term maintenance can be expensive in case of prototyping also, and uncertain design ideas. So it might create sometime that design idea might be uncertain because iteratively if the feedback is not good enough or feedback is different from previous, in that way it might lead to a uncertain design idea. Information can be lost through so many information changes, and also that is a views factor. Every iteration you might to discard the initial, you might to reject the initial things or previous things. In that way information might lost, but sometimes you might feel that the previous informations are more good. So in that way it also created disadvantage in this system. There is low fidelity prototyping. Low fidelity prototyping is generally limited function, limited interaction prototyping effort. They are constructed concept only, design alternatives, screen layouts. They are intended to demonstrate general look and feel of the interface. They are created to educate, communicate, and inform, but not to train, test, and serve as a basis for which to code. So this is the main characteristics of low fidelity prototyping. Low fidelity prototyping is used early in the design cycle to show general conceptual approaches without much investment in development. High fidelity prototyping is actually it is fourth prototyping technique. High fidelity prototypes represent the core functionality of products user interface. High fidelity prototypes are fully interactive systems. User can enter data in entry fields, response to messages, select icon to open windows, and interact with user interface as if it were a real system. The trade-off speed for accuracy. Building high fidelity prototypes consume resources and have high cost. So there is the disadvantage of high fidelity prototyping also. But point is that there is a difference between low fidelity and high fidelity. That is, the design is low and it does not give any more chance for train, test, and serve. But here you can find it that people or user can use this to find the responses, to find how data can be entered or how the windows interact with the users and like that. But in low fidelity that is not available. So these four are the main type of prototyping technique. You might find different type of techniques also in literature research, in books. Okay, you can, if you find them, that is also okay. Please go through them also, and in that way you can find more knowledge about prototyping. So comparison of these two types, that is low fidelity prototypes and high fidelity prototypes. Advantages are like lower development costs, evaluate multiple design concept, useful communication device, address in layout issues. But point is that limited error checking, facilitator driven, limited utility after requirement and established navigational and flow limitation, poor detailed specification to code. So these are the disadvantages and disadvantages of low fidelity. So in that way you can compare these two also. Please go through this context. Okay, and you can see here in case of high fidelity, and what is the advantage? Complete functionality, fully interactive, user driven, clear definition of navigation, look and feel to final product, used for exploration and test, obviously. So basically we can see this is the way of prototyping the things. First you need to find out your problem. When you develop your project, please try to find out the problem first. When you are going to develop a project, please try to find the problem first, then design, preliminary design, throw away prototype, try to design the throwaway prototype, then refine the problem by using this feedback. Okay, so and investigate and demonstrate this throwaway prototype to the users and try to investigate what are the output of this prototype or what are the feedback you are gathering. Then you refine the main problem. Okay, you then go after complete refinement, because this might look goes on and on, but after complete refinement you go for the final design, and final design a model prototype or main prototype, because this is initially throw a prototype which will not work in the final system. So in the final design, model prototype is simulate these things or formal verification is done. Then you go for program generation, code generation, and then you see the main code generation of the system. Main system is the main system of the or information system. But and again you try to refine this thing, and again at this also try to taste and performance analysis. So this is the methodology of prototyping. Okay, this is the main prototype you will get out from this point. So this is the text actually. Development high interactive software system with graphical user interfaces has become increasingly common, and acceptance of such a system depends highly on the quality of GUI. Obviously, a user interface prototyping is like you build a UI of your system and try to interact with the users, and you try to find out the feedback or interaction, or how people interact with your system. You just develop the GUI. GUI means the user interface, graphical user interface, through which user will interact, and through interaction you will gather data, you will gather the information, and through the information you will try to incorporate in the whole system, in the main system. So prototyping is an excellent means of generating ideas about the GUI can be designed, and it helps to evaluate quality solution at early stage. So classification of user interface prototypes are like it might be presentation prototypes, it might be functional prototypes, it might be breadboards, pilot systems. So there are also risk in prototypes, like client maybe believe that system is real. Obviously, initially you feel that people might feel that your prototype is the actual system, but not actually. Your system is the prototype only. So because after using this prototype only, you will develop the main system, but actually client might think that this is the real system. So unrealistic expectation of the progress. So in that way, it might create some doubt in minds of clients. Implementers make poor choice. Sometimes an implementer of the, or you might say coder or the programmer might make poor choice, justified because this is a prototyping method. That is why they might make poor choice, which might lead the client in very bad way. Justified in prototype but not in real system, tempting to build real system same way. So it might create ambiguous scenario in mind of users or client. Prototype is not identical to the real system. Obviously, prototype is obviously not real to the identical to the real system. It will be different, but users may interact differently due to different response characteristics. So if it is more different, vast difference occurs between prototype and real system, the client might interact differently due to different response characteristics. Must interpret prototype experience with care. So that is why we have to interpret prototype experience with care. So do we need prototyping? 2 points of interest for companies to adopt prototyping based on technology are like, point one is that they allow us to reduce the cost and time to market of a system. Then for companies building critical systems, prototyping would help them perform formal verification when required. These methodologies provide high level of reliability in the system design and implementation. That is why these 2 points are very, very important to know why do we need prototyping. Okay, that is why we need prototyping. So what we learned, try to go through this point also. I will share this material over Google Classroom. If you have any doubt also, please let me know. That is all about regarding prototyping. Okay, thank you.